Uncle Dan.
I before the day this episode is over, I will betray one of you.
Well, as long as there is a precious metal of some quantity involved, I don't see that that's a problem. I mean,
it feels right.
Just make it worth it.
Potato.
It feels right.
Just with the exchange rate.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Well,
give it unto Caesar. I don't know. What are we talking about?
It's all in there somewhere.
Yeah. Uncle Doug, help us out. What the hell are we talking about?
Well, the other day I was listening to some old U2. Don't add me. Don't call me a dad rock fan. But on Achtung Baby,
you are the appropriate amount of old for that.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. I don't apologize.
It's our generation's version of like, yeah, the Stones are good, but the Eagles were the best band of all time.
Just hate the Eagles, man.
Oh my God, that's true. The U2 is like our generation's Eagles.
Yeah, totally is.
Oh God.
So there's a song.
They're better than the Eagles.
Yes. There's a song on Achtung Baby called Until the End of the World, which I hadn't realized until I was kind of just paying attention to it a little while back, is actually a conversation between Judas and Jesus, which is kind of interesting.
Huh.
And again, side note, U2 is a massive Christian rock band, if you didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
It really is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, they almost took a diversion early on into like literal praise rock.
Yep.
Like church rock band.
And what was it, the drummer?
No, it was Adam
Clayton, I think.
Adam Clayton, the bass player, was like, you do that and I'm fucking out of here.
Exactly.
So I think that
they veered away from like full-on praise rock.
I think they used the mythology
Yes.
as part of their storytelling. Yes.
Anyway, we're not here to talk about U2 or anyone else. So we're here to talk about Judas Iscariot. I thought it'd be fun to kind of take a dive
Judas!
into good old Judas.
Yes.
So Judas Iscariot was a dirty, filthy Jew.
Oh, boy.
Okay, we're starting that way.
Let me back up a little bit.
Drop the curtain.
By modern standards, anybody in first century Judea would be considered filthy. And he, like the rest of the apostles and Jesus himself, was a Jew. So,
yes. Okay, great.
So, it's not a slur, it's just a fact. Judas Iscariot was one of the original 12 apostles, and he's the one that ends up betraying Jesus, as we all know, which in and of itself is kind of a weird thing, which we'll talk about. And Judas hands over Jesus to the Jewish mob or authorities, depending on which version of the story we're talking about. Judas is mentioned in all four Gospels and the book of Acts. And for a lot of Bible scholars and apologists, the fact that he's in all four Gospels is proof that he really existed.
I love that because what that says is that the Bible is so fucked up. And
any consistency has got to be true.
Like, wow, this one made it through every thread.
Right.
This one's got to be real.
Yeah, but
because the rest of it is such a god-awful mess that it's ridiculous.
That's like saying that that Thanos appears in every version, every movie of the Avengers, therefore.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
Which he does.
Well, and we've already established that the Gospels are like four horrible siblings that just fight over everything and agree on nothing.
Exactly.
Right.
And this is certainly one of those examples.
Right.
So yeah, he appears in all four stories. The versions of the story that agree across the four platforms are that he betrays Jesus and then identifies Jesus in the garden.
Right.
To a certain extent. Judah, the name, actually means God is praised. It's a very, very common name in that area at the time. And it's even common throughout the New Testament. There's several other people named Judas in the New Testament.
Okay.
Iscariot likely means... What's that?
That's confusing, but okay.
It is. Iscariot likely means he's from the village of Kerioth.
Oh.
But that is far from accepted. It could also be a derivation of the Latin word Sicarius, meaning daggerman or assassin. And then there's several other possible meanings for the name, so that's not agreed upon.
Isn't there a movie called Sicarius?
Yeah, that's where our president gets all his immigration facts from.
That's right.
Yes.
Since the earliest days of Christianity to the modern day, the nature of Judas and his role in the narrative has been disputed. Take two very perfect examples from our day, the Last Temptation of Christ and the Passion of the Christ. In the Last Temptation...
Those aren't the same movie?
They're not at all.
Very much not. Yeah.
In the last
one is a Scorsese movie.
Yep.
Oh,
yeah.
We know how you guys feel about Scorsese movies.
Yes, we have a lot of fun with those.
In The Last Temptation, Judas, played by Harvey Keitel for some reason, is the only apostle who fully understands what has to happen, and Jesus gives him the burden of turning him in.
Yes, he was the only Judas from Jersey City, the only apostle from... I don't want to do it, Lord. I don't want to do it.
Judas a Hoboken.
That's right. Basically, Judas is the hero of the story in The Last Temptation. In The Passion, Judas, played by, of course, Luca Leonello, is a filthy, money-grubbing Jewy McJewface. He's pure one-dimensional evil.
Right.
So there's kind
He's
of
a total Shylock.
Oh,
Yeah.
You guys have seen that movie, right?
I have not.
I'm not into torture porn, and
You would not like that movie.
Yeah.
Not until the Gam Boys make us watch it.
That's
No.
right.
they probably will. They'll probably make us do
sure
something
they will,
that awful.
yeah.
It is an uncomfortable watch.
Yeah.
The Jew, Mel Gibson puts a little bit too much emphasis on the Jew part of the story. So let's take the story chronologically. Let's go back and look at the story as it exists in the New Testament and take that piece by piece.
Oh, goody.
We're in the new international version again.
Whoa,
Turning it to
NIV. I feel so fresh and alive.
Feel liberated. So let's take them chronologically. The first version of the story is in Mark. Judas goes to the priests and offers to betray Jesus, to which they offer him unspecified money. There's no motivation ascribed to Judas. He just goes and decides to do it. Then, at the Last Supper, Jesus predicts that one of the 12 apostles will betray him and says it would be better to have not been born than to betray him. He doesn't identify who it is, and the apostles don't bother to figure out what's going on.
Let me ask a quick question.
Yeah.
And certainly, in Mark, it doesn't give any foreshadowing or character development at all. I don't know in the other Gospels. Is there anything in Judas's character leading up to this betrayal that says that he's doubting
That he's doing steeple fingers off in the corner.
Right.
Only in one version, and it's problematic. And
Okay.
we'll get to that.
All right.
Okay.
But not necessarily in the other version. It's not like
prior to that, Judas is great.
it's not like
He's just a disciple.
he's a non-character. He's not even.
Oh.
Yeah, he's mentioned, but he doesn't do anything.
Right.
There's never really a motivation. Like Jesus never slights him or something that you would naturally think would lead to a falling out. No, none of that happens. So back to Mark. Judas later brings the armed mob to Gethsemane and gives the prearranged signal calling Jesus a rabbi and kissing him, thus betraying him, and the Jews take him into custody. That's it. That's
So
Judas.
if I kiss a rabbi, the police will show up immediately. The Jewish
Yes.
police will show up immediately.
Yes, Mark, but that's because you're doing it against his will.
That's right.
Jesus consented.
So that's it. That's the first version of the story. That's it.
Okay.
Judas plays no further role. Okay, jumping into Luke. Kind of the same thing. The chief priests are looking for a way to get rid of Jesus, and wouldn't you know it, Satan enters Judas, and that's kind of what compels him to betray Jesus. Is Satan enters him? Why? Why him? Doesn't say.
Satan enters him.
So Judas didn't betray him at all in the second.
In the second version, Satan takes over Judas
Right.
and makes him do it. Right?
the devil made me do it.
yeah, exactly.
But I mean, this whole devil concept has always been tricky because theoretically, you're still, even if the devil tempts you to do something, you're still responsible. But if the devil enters you,
Right.
are you responsible? Like,
I don't know.
I don't know.
When we'll talk about this, the whole question of free will is very hard to pin down in this story.
Right.
Anyway, so at the Last Supper, once again, Jesus predicts that one of them will betray him. They all wonder who it is, but no one does anything about it. And then Judas brings a crowd.
Well,
to
it was
Gethsemane.
hard for them to talk because they were all sitting on that one side, and it's like, Simon.
You have to yell
couldn't
all
talk
the
to
way.
Thomas down at the other end.
It's so hard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Judas brings a crowd to Gethsemane and tries to kiss Jesus, but Jesus
Did you
stops
say
him.
Gethsemane?
Gethsemane.
Okay.
Gethsemane.
Yeah.
Gethsemane.
Gethsemane.
I can't say it anymore.
We've ruined it.
The garden.
The blood garden.
He tries to kiss Jesus, but Jesus stops him and calls him out, and then Jesus is taken into custody.
Jesus stops him and is like, didn't you have a cold sore just like yesterday?
Exactly.
Don't kiss me.
I saw you kissing Barnabas just yesterday. And that's it. That's the end of Judas in the story. So
I saw Judas kissing Barnabas underneath
kosher meal we
Gethsemane.
had.
Cody, cut all of this out. Okay, Matthew. Here's where we get more of the familiar part of the story, as is kind of always the case with Matthew. There's actually color to it. Judas goes to the priest to betray Jesus. Why? We don't know. They offer him 30 pieces of silver. As a side note, any idea what the modern equivalent of 30 pieces of silver at the time is?
8 Bitcoin.
Not a lot. Less than $500.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah. So, at the Last Supper, Jesus announces that someone will betray him, and Judas says, "Surely you don't mean me," to which Jesus says, "You have said so." and nothing happens. Like the other apostles don't do anything about it. Anyway, so now
that is delightful. Like that would be a good psychological trick. You get up in front of a group and you're like, one of you will betray me, and whoever goes, well, I mean, it's not going to be me. Obviously, you're not talking about me, are you? Why would you say that?
well, if you say so.
Oh, interesting, Joe.
Whoever leaves the tip at this meal is the one who betrayed
Exactly.
me.
Well, that's funny because that's actually not far off. Judas brings guards to Gethsemane. God damn it! Brings guards to the garden. Okay. Calls Jesus rabbi and kisses him to identify him. They take him away. Later on, when Judas...
Maybe kissing is the crime. What it said the kiss is this thing.
Yeah,
Right,
it's this
very
gay
strange.
kiss that suddenly they're like, let's arrest that guy.
Is it like from Godfather 2, where it's like it was you, Fredo?
Kind of, I guess.
Yeah, maybe.
But the thing is...
You broke my heart, Jesus.
You gave him the kiss of death.
This whole thing doesn't make... I mean, and we'll talk about this. Jesus had to fall into the Jewish authorities' hands to be crucified,
Right.
to fulfill blah, blah, blah. The vehicle that...
Wait, you said the Jewish authorities' hands?
Well, it was the Jews
It was
who
the
took him.
Romans that did it,
The
right?
Jews took him in the garden. And
But we blame the Jews.
Yes,
Right,
exactly.
I know.
Where have you been these past
I know, I'm
1,500
just
years?
trying to get it straight.
So the Jews take him in the garden, they slap him around, and then they turn him over to the Romans.
Okay, good.
And so, but Jesus needs to fall into the hands of the authorities somehow.
Right.
The vehicle for it in the Bible is Judas, right? I don't know why Judas has to betray him. Why can't the authorities just come get him? But further, I don't know why Judas has to point out Jesus so ornately.
He has, well,
They all know who the fuck
He's,
he is.
he's the,
Everybody
he's the
knows.
one Caucasian guy in the whole group.
Look for the blonde with long hair.
The guy with the Norwegian accent is clearly the king of the Jews.
I just love the idea that, like, yeah, you're right. A, why does he kiss him?
Yeah.
Instead of just pointing.
There he is.
That's the guy.
Yeah.
B, everybody knows who Jesus is.
Right.
He did that whole, like, parade through town on a donkey.
Or two
thing.
donkeys, depending on the
Or
version.
two donkeys.
Yeah, he
or a
chased-
tall donkey and a little donkey, like a big horse and little horse.
Yeah, and he caused a big scene at the temple.
Yeah, he flipped over all the tables at the temple.
He's been like challenging the Pharisees in the streets all this time.
Literally,
he is.
they all know who he is. Judas does not have to be part of this.
So I don't know why Judas has to betray him, quote unquote, in the first place, or why he has to kiss him or point him out. I don't understand, but here it is.
He's working it out with the Jewish police. It's like, okay, so I'll just point to him. No, kiss him.
You gotta kiss him.
That's how we'll know.
Kiss him on the mouth.
Wait, he might be suspicious of you if you point at him. Here's what you do.
Right.
Don't tell us. Just go up and give him a little peck, just a little sweet thing, no tongue.
No open mouths. No.
Well, and if you show up with all these,
Because there was no such thing as gall kissing yet.
Right.
Hello, French history buffs.
if you show up with a bunch of armed guards,
Not the worst.
I don't know. I have no idea what you're talking about.
one listener's very happy about
Yeah.
this. And if Judas was trying to protect himself from the other apostles, if you show up with a bunch of armed guards who end up taking Jesus away,
Yeah.
how you point out Jesus is not going to like trick them.
Yeah, the rest of the group's not going to be like, how did they know?
I know. All right.
Let's see. We were having dinner. Then Judas kissed him. I
Judas-
don't know what's up.
Then Jesus said he's going to betray me, and then Judas left, and then Judas showed up with armed guards.
and they handed
what
Judas
happened?
a huge bag of silver.
And then
So just a normal
I just don't get it.
meal with the
Who
apostles.
could it have been? Okay, so back to the narrative.
And then Scooby and Shaggy pull off the, I don't know,
Totally.
Thomas's face, and it was old man Carruthers the whole time.
So back to Matthew. When Judas hears that Jesus is to be crucified, he tries to return the silver to the chief priests, who won't take it. So Judas throws the silver at them and goes and hangs himself. So
Right.
first time we get a suicide in this story.
Wow.
So in Luke and Mark, no suicide, no death. He hangs himself in Matthew. So here's a weird thing. The priests pick up the silver and use it to purchase a field to bury foreigners. Okay.
Hey,
Yeah.
you know what? They're putting it to the common good.
But what a strange divergence, because you have to think, like, okay, Judas throws the silver and leaves.
Right.
And then they probably picked up the silver right then, and then they had to call a realtor and find the right field. Like, concurrently, Jesus is being crucified.
I feel like they convened some councils.
Yeah, that's
and we're
just-
like, how are we going to use? You know, we've got a budget surplus because of this whole 30 silver thing.
That's kind of like the end of the city council meeting. Do we have any other business? Oh, we have a pile of foreigners. What need burying? Well, yeah, we have a little slush fund now. What the God, Bible?
Oh my God. Okay, so and then they call the field of blood.
Oh.
Whether that's I don't know because it was purchased with blood money, I guess.
What?
Yeah, I know. So
Okay.
So Matthew's description of the death as fulfillment of a prophecy spoken through Jeremiah the prophet is problematic because that prophecy doesn't exist in the book of Jeremiah or in the book of Zechariah. But whatever.
Okay,
So, great. All right.
Do you remember that long lost prophecy?
You can't even get your stupid prophecies right in your own book.
I know.
All right, John. Here's the book of John. Jesus is teaching it. This one's fun. Jesus is teaching his apostles and says, quote, "Have I not chosen you, the 12? Yet one of you is a devil." Again, nothing is done about this. All right. Later, Jesus is having dinner.
Well, he chose them.
I know, right?
Also, can I just say,
Yeah.
hell of a way to make a dinner awkward.
I know, right?
That sounds like dinner with our parents.
Hey, you guys, I love all of you. You're all chosen. One of you's Satan.
One of you, it's a devil.
Thanksgiving in our house would be, we hate all of you, but we hate one more.
Exactly. All right, so here's to answer your question, Uncle Mark. Later, Jesus is having dinner at Lazarus' house. Yes, that Lazarus.
Okay.
The one he brought back from the dead.
Yeah.
And Mary pours out an entire pint of pure nard on Jesus' feet.
I was not ready for nard.
Oh, you got to get the pure stuff. What you don't want is that unfiltered nard.
Did you say a pint?
A pint of nard. Nard sounds like somebody who drank beer with Brett Kavanaugh.
Oh my God! By the way, "Pint of Nard" is the title of my new death metal klezmer band album.
Pint of nard.
So she pours.
What is nard?
It's some kind of very expensive ointment.
It's an unguent.
It's exactly. So Mary
Did
pours.
his feet need so much nard?
I don't know. Well, that's a very good question.
Yeah.
And Judas himself
He might
asks
have had
that
some
question.
pretty nardy feet.
He does now.
It's possible to over nard.
So she pours out this pint of nard and then washes.
And then he got up to take a piss, and there was a terrible slip and fall.
She washes his feet with her hair. Judas takes
I
exception
remember
to
that
this.
part.
Yeah. Judas takes exception.
What an awkward dinner party. I'd be like, you know what? I'm fine. Could I just have a dish? I don't need
He's
your...
like, I don't want nard on my. Oh my God! I
Just a
didn't
dish
want
towel,
any
some
nard on
rando.
my. Oh God! You're wiping it with your hair. Oh my God! Okay, this is okay. Oh my God!
The orzo's really good.
So Judas takes exception to this, asking why why not sell the nard and give the money to the
That
poor.
is perfectly good nard.
It's perfectly good nard.
Dan, will you Google what nard is?
I won't. I refuse.
You have to take your safe search off.
It's a super smelly ointment.
Okay.
Yeah. So Judas says, why don't you sell the nard and give the money to the poor? Which sounds altruistic, but here's the great part. John, on an aside, makes sure to tell us that Judas does not care about the poor, but that he is the keeper of the money for the 12 apostles, and he's been skimming. Because he's a Jew. Remember,
He's
the book of John
Point of
is
order, they're all Jews. Doug just is a racist. But
right.
anyway.
But the book of John is particularly anti-Semitic, and here's a very good example of that. So we get a motivation, right? He's been skimming.
Right.
So he's been dishonest. We get a little bit of character to Judas. However, this interaction with Judas prompts one of the weirdest things Jesus ever said. So in response to Judas's objection, Jesus says, "You will always have the poor among you, but you will not always have me."
Okay.
Right.
Right.
And
So
I see.
so don't spare the nard.
I see conservative Christians on Twitter using that a lot.
Yeah.
Basically, their point of view is there's just nothing that can be done about the poor, so let's not do anything.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. By the way, nard would be the essential oil of the Himalayan spikenard, which is a also
better.
also known as also known as muskroot. And it's it's a flower. It's got a flower.
The more you know.
Hit images.
I don't. No.
All right.
That's not a thing.
All right, so the Last Supper, this time before Passover, because we're in a different version of the fucking story, the devil enters Judas and prompts him to betray Jesus. Jesus predicts his betrayal, and in this version states that who he gives his piece of bread to is the person who's going to betray him.
Oh, my God.
And he hands the piece of bread to Judas.
Again with the symbolic thing.
Judas just kind of lean away from Peter, like, well, I didn't think that was you.
He just looks right at the other guy, the guy next to him. Well, take your bread, dummy.
And then he says to Judas,
I'm gluten intolerant. I couldn't take that. Thank you.
Couldn't eat another bite.
Jesus says to Judas,
I'll kiss you later.
Yeah, what you're about to do quickly. So Judas gets up and leaves. The apostles don't even fully understand what just happened and do nothing to stop Judas, so Judas is gone.
Right.
Judas shows up in the garden with a detachment of soldiers this time. And then in this version, there's no...
so these are presumably Roman soldiers?
No, these are Jewish soldiers. So in the
Okay.
previous versions, it's been a mob or just some people, and now it's soldiers.
Okay.
But Jewish soldiers.
Okay.
They show up. Judas doesn't finger him at all, so to speak. And Jesus says, "Why are you here? Who are you after?" The soldiers say Jesus, and Jesus says, "It's me!" So powerfully,
wow.
they all fall down. Then they get themselves together and take Jesus into custody. No kiss, no pointing him
Maybe
out.
they were overcome with the aroma of nard.
So that's it. No death. Now, a quick coda in the book of Acts, which is the next book after John, but was actually written by the same guy who wrote Luke. Judas buys a field with the blood money he got for betraying Jesus, where he falls headlong and his body bursts open and his intestines spill out.
Right, I remember that,
It doesn't say he hung him. So the version we think of is he hung himself so hard his bowels broke open and his intestines came out.
I watch fail videos on the internets a lot.
Yeah.
You know, the kid on the skateboard going down the railing. That's like people on the ice falling hard.
Yeah.
Their entrails remain interior of their body. Like, how hard do you have to fall?
But it doesn't say why he fell. It doesn't say why he burst open. It just is in there. Okay.
Well, let me just say, I don't know if you guys have ever smelled a lot of nard all at once, but man, that'll rupture your abdomen.
Your spleen will shoot right
your
out of your
bowels.
belly button.
So that's the end of Judas in the Bible. Obviously not the end of Judas in Christian lore.
Right.
An early church father, Papias of Hierapolis, around 130 AD, has a story about Judas that after the death of Jesus, Judas became afflicted by God's wrath. His body became so enormously bloated that he could not pass through a street with buildings on either side. His face became so swelled up that a doctor couldn't even identify his eyes. His genitals became so swollen they oozed pus and worms. Finally, he killed himself with his own hand by pouring out his innards on the ground, which stank so horribly that even 100 years later, people could still not pass by the field without holding their noses.
I do feel like I thought for a second that you were going to say that they just crossed the streams at him, and that's how you destroy when he gets that big.
So there's another version in the Gospel of Nicodemus, which is probably written in the 4th century. You'll love this one. Jesus was overcome with remorse and went home to tell his wife, who was roasting a chicken on a spit over a charcoal fire.
Jesus' wife?
Judas's wife.
Oh, okay.
So Judas said,
Mrs. Iscariot.
Yeah, Mrs. Iscariot. Judas said, he's going to kill himself because he's so terrified that when Jesus rises from the dead, he's going to punish Judas. Judas's wife says that he could no more rise from the dead than the chicken on the spit, at which point,
of course,
the chicken on the spit came back to life.
Right.
And so Judas ran and hung himself.
Bok, bitch!
And from then on, it only laid over easy eggs.
And then many listeners might remember in the 1970s, there was a document found, a self-titled Gospel of Judas, dating back all the way to 220 to 340 CE, which consists of several conversations between Judas and Jesus, where Jesus
and
basically...
a U2 song.
What's that?
And a U2 song.
That's right. And it's clearly in the Gnostic tradition, so it doesn't fit in any of the other Gospels, but it definitely is an ancient document about Judas and Jesus being in cahoots about the betrayal.
Right. Huh.
And National Geographic published a translation of this Gospel, but the translation has been kind of criticized for being hyper sensationalized.
Huh.
But in any case,
it's got a very like Dumbledore Snape feel to it.
Yeah, very much so. But all this is to say that the story of why Judas had to betray Jesus in the first place is very problematic. Like you said, Uncle Mark, he chose the apostles.
Yeah.
So if he's perfect, he chose a guy who would betray him.
Yeah.
Well, the story doesn't. The story of Jesus can't work without the betrayal.
Right.
The betrayal is critical, at least to the narrative as it's told in the Bible.
Right.
So, and in Scorsese's what I thought was a very interesting film, The Last Temptation of Christ, Jesus tells him, like, Judas is his most loyal.
Yeah.
Like, he's actually a former assassin.
Right.
He's a bad dude, and so he's super loyal, like physically loyal to Jesus. He's like, you're my most loyal.
You have to do this terrible thing.
You have to be that. You're the one that has to do it. And he's like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. But he finally does it because he understands that's how it has to work.
Everything to get it set in motion, this has to happen.
Because he's got to go to the crucifixion.
Yeah, so it's problematic in the sense that what free will is there of Judas? Does he?
Right.
He either did it to betray Jesus, which had to happen for money. He did it because Satan possessed him. Which can he be blamed for that?
Right.
But he did a thing that had to happen.
He did it because of a magic chicken.
Could it be?
And now Judas also appears in Mormon lore as a justification for Mormon blood atonement. When Joseph Smith said he had a revelation that Judas did not hang himself, but he kind of took the falling down and exploding bit and said, no, he was killed when the other apostles kicked him to pieces.
Good God.
They kicked his head off, they kicked his bowels out, they kicked his genitals off. And then, of course, I've just been reading through Dante's Inferno. Judas also appears in the final circle of hell, where one of Satan's 3 heads,
the middle head,
is chewing him
forever. That's right.
Just as sort of like gum.
But you know what's crazy? It's what's in the other 2 jaws?
Cassius and Brutus.
Yeah, that's right. Who killed Caesar?
Really?
Killed
Yeah.
Caesar.
Oh,
yeah.
interesting.
So yeah, there's your Judas.
All right. Well, I feel betrayed.
I think I hear the cock crowing. I must go.
Moving on.
But first a kiss.
quick little makeout session, and then we'll move on.